Hello and welcome back. Last week we started a study on the questions that Jesus asked to people out of the book of John. And so we're still in chapter 1. If you want to find your Bibles, and the passage that we're going to look at in a few moments is going to begin reading with verse 36. So far, the circle of disciples Jesus is calling his first group of disciples, and that circle is beginning to grow. John the Baptist has pointed to Jesus as the one who is the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. And that's what we read in verse 36. Then Andrew and his friend come to Jesus, and they heard him, and they made the decision that they were going to follow. Andrew went to tell his brother Simon, and he also came to follow Jesus, and Jesus changed his name and said, from now on, you're going to be called Peter. Your name will be Cephas. So now we've come to this place where it's the next day. And it says in verse 43, the next day Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." The Galilee, he's moved north and he's moved into the Galilee area, which really is the sort of the northernmost part of Jewish territory. This is the place where the Gentiles live. So it's going to be foreigners. In fact, the name Galilee means circle of Gentiles, or the district of foreigners. He found Philip. Philip is a Greek name, so that lets us know that Philip has come from a Greek culture. In fact, the hometown of Philip has been known for its Hellenistic tendencies. It sees things and operates with a very Greek kind of mindset. And so it says Philip, like Andrew, was also from the town of Bethsaida, and Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one that Moses wrote about in the law and about the prophets, who also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." So Nathanael is a friend who's from Cana. This is the only time that he is mentioned. He's mentioned here, but he's also mentioned in a few chapters later, but he is only mentioned in the Gospel of John. And so Philip says to Nathanael, "We have found the Messiah. We found the one that you have been looking for. He is Jesus, the son of Joseph." And so Nathanael makes this observation. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? We don't know why he said that. Maybe it was because there was some rivalry between Cana and Nazareth, and he's wondering, can anything good come out of that other community that we are rivals with, or we are competing with? Sort of be like a Tennessee fan saying, can anything good come out of Alabama? Or can anything good come out of Florida? So his question is, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Or maybe it was because there did not exist any kind of prophecy in the Old Testament that said that the Messiah would be born to the son of Joseph, or would come out of Nazareth. So Philip persisted, and he used the same words that Jesus used when asked before. And he said, well, just come and see. Come and see. Nathanael did so reluctantly. And then it says that Jesus saw him coming. Here was this man who had talked disparagingly about his background and about where he had come from. But before Nathanael had a chance to say anything, Jesus said to him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile." When he said this, Jesus caught Nathanael off guard, because he has described in that one phrase, an Israelite in whom there is no guile, what would be considered, this is the model Jewish person, one who is faithful, one who is following after God, wanting to learn and wanting to grow and to be pure. This was the identity that most Jewish people wanted to have, to be said about them, someone in whom there is no guile. And he said this because he had seen him sitting under a tree. Zechariah 3:10 talks about a time when people will live in such peace that they will be devoted to the law, and that devotion to the law will be visible because they will have an opportunity to just relax and sit under the tree and learn and grow. This is what he says, Zechariah 3:10. "Each of you will invite your neighbor to sit under your vine and under your fig tree." So that picture of sitting under a vine or sitting under a fig tree was a picture of a person who was studying, who was faithful, who took their faith seriously, and who wanted to know what the law had to say. Nathanael was so impressed that Jesus knew him through and through that he said, "Only a prophet could know the hours that I sit under a tree. Only a prophet could know my name, even though we have not been introduced." And so Nathanael makes this statement of faith in verse 49. "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." He was saying, "Rabbi," in other words, you are a great teacher. You are one whom I can sit under the tree and study with and learn about the law and grow with. And you are also the King of Israel. You are the Messiah. You are the one who has been sent to usher in this new age. And so we come to this second question that is in the Gospel of John, where Jesus asks, "Because I said to you that I saw you under a fig tree, do you believe?" And that's the question of faith. Do you believe? Or, better way of saying it is, why do you believe? Why do you believe? We don't know the answer that Nathanael had here because we're not told. But it's a good question for us. Why is it that you believe? I came face to face with that question a number of years ago when I had the opportunity to go and live in Israel. I worked with a number of missionaries who were there to minister to the people of the land, people who had a very different faith. And so it caused me to raise some questions. Why is it that I believe what I believe instead of maybe believing what somebody else believed? I had to realize that I believed because I was brought up this way. My family, they were Christians. My neighbors were Christians. My culture that I lived in was a Christian culture. That was all I had ever known. I got up on Monday morning and I ate my breakfast and I went to school. I got up on Sunday morning and I ate my breakfast and we went to church. And I began to wonder and to question, what if I had been born in a different part of the world? What if I'd been born in that larger area of the Middle East where I was born into a Muslim family? Or what about if I'd been born in Asia and I had been born into a Buddhist family? Would I so easily convert if Christian missionaries came and tried to tell me about someone who was very different and who was the way to know God? That would be a difficult decision if that's all I had ever known. Or what if I lived here in this country and maybe a Muslim missionary or a Buddhist missionary moved in next door to me and they raised questions that I had never faced before? Would I so readily convert? Well, those were questions that were new to me. Why? And I had to answer that question. Why is it that I believe? And I had to be honest and to say that a lot of the reason I believe is because that's what I knew, and that's how I had grown up until that faith could become my own. I know that there are a lot of reasons why people do believe. Sometimes it's that dark night of the soul when people recognize they've gone as far as they can go. They don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, and so they do something that they haven't done in a long time or don't do very often, and that is they pray. And somehow that prayer is answered, and as a result of the answer that they receive or the something that happens, then they believe. That's why they believe, because of that experience. Some people believe because they think that the teaching of the church is going to be good for their family. You know, the family that worships together is the family that stays together. So it certainly won't hurt, and it might do some good, and so they believe for that reason. Nathanael believed because Jesus knew his name. He knew some things about him. Jesus could read the signs of the times about heaven and earth, and who wouldn't believe somebody who could know so much and who could do so much? Yet the faith that Nathanael had, I think, really was a fragile kind of faith. It was the kind of faith that sees miracles and believes. We might call that sort of a first-grade ability to trust. It's the people who will pray, and they may pray, God, get me out of this mess, or give me a sign, mend my marriage, heal my child, send us a job, take away the pain. They will pray something simple like that, and as a result, they will believe. Psychologists tell us that children learn a lot about God from their parents. That's kind of scary, isn't it? Especially in those early years. Brian McLaren talks about the different stages, the different versions of God that have somewhat of a parallel to the different stages of life that we go through. He says that first version of God happens when we are infants. We're pretty selfish. Everything is about me, me, me. My hunger, my thirst, my comfort. It's all about me. I want somebody to come whenever I call them to clean up this mess or to satisfy my demands, to kiss the scrapes on my knees, take care of me, whatever it might be. That's who that God is in the first phase of life, somebody who's going to watch after me. The second version of God is that version that we become a little bit older. Maybe we're toddlers and we're children. And while that first version of God is still alive, God in us, God take care of me, we're beginning to learn what it means to share, to give, and to be generous. So we will share a toy with a friend and we will be praised for it. We begin to learn that our God is a generous God who also calls us to be generous and to share. We're growing a little bit outward from ourselves. Then we get a little bit older and we go into middle school, junior high, high school, and we learn a different version about God. Because now we are in a place where we are learning a lot of rules. We have to sit in our seat. We can't just get up until we ask permission. We have to do our homework even if we don't want to do it. There are certain rules about grammar. There are certain rules about mathematics. We come to the point where we want to get our driver's license and we learn that there are rules about the road and how you live on the road, exist and drive on the road if you want to have a license. And so we come to see God as a God who is a God of rules and who plays fair. He rewards those who keep the rules and he punishes those who break the rules. Well, we get a little bit older. Maybe we fall in love. We're still a little bit selfish in that love, but we begin to understand that true love is about sacrifice. It's about forgiving. It's about caring and being faithful to someone. It's about family. And so we learn that God is that kind of love. It's kind of sad that a number of people will get stuck at a lot of different places. For some people, we're still stuck at that first phase where we want God to solve all of our problems and meet all of our needs. Or maybe we want God to be nice so that we can all get along with each other. Or we like the idea that God is a God of rules. And deep down inside, we want to impose those rules on other people as well. Or maybe God is that God of the common good and not of self-interest. Jesus knew that Nathanael had a long way to go in his faith. He said, "Do you believe because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree? Truly I say to you, you will see the heavens opened and angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Jesus goes back and links this picture that comes out of a dream or a vision that Jacob had when he went to sleep in Bethel. He saw angels ascending and descending on a ladder between earth and heaven. The difference in this story, though, is that the Son of Man, Jesus, is the ladder. He is the channel for revelation. If we want to know God as Father, then it is through Jesus as that ladder that enables us to do that. So he's saying, you are going to see. This is not a back to Bethel moment where he invites us to go back and let's dream the dream of our ancestors. But instead, he said, you will see. This is a call to the future. You're going to see for yourselves only what Jacob and those who came before us were able to dream about. Nathanael, he's saying, there's another kind of faith. There's another kind of seeing. You know little of it right now. Right now, you are at that first grade level of faith. You look for signs. You look for proof. But there is another kind of faith out there that's a lot deeper than what you are experiencing. And sometimes it takes a whole lifetime to be able to know it. You will see heaven opened, and the angels of God will be ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Oh, Nathanael, there is so much more for you to discover. Thomas, your friend, he knows the first part of this faith. Remember when he said to Jesus, unless I see the prints in your hands, the prints of the nails in your hands, I'm not going to believe. And Jesus unfolded his hands and he showed those nail prints to Thomas and said, blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. That's a deeper kind of faith. Paul described that deeper kind of faith as being able to see through a glass darkly or dimly and still being able to believe, even when we can't see. So he goes beyond that idea of seeing and feeling. It's as strange, he says, as angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. And the reality is that many people never see it. Martin Luther said there are two kinds of faith. There's the kind of faith where we believe in God, in other words, we believe things about God, sort of that encyclopedia knowledge, facts, figures, those kind of things. But there's a deeper faith where we believe in God, where we learn to trust, where we give Him our money because we believe in what God wants to do in this world. We surrender our lives and we make the decision that we're going to follow Him. This is a much deeper kind of faith, one that we know by experience. Really, it's a different kind of sight. In John, Jesus says it is as strange as watching angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Now, Nathanael is going to be mentioned again in this book of John. He's going to show up again in chapter 12. Jesus has been crucified. The disciples are devastated. They don't know what to do. And so they return to the only thing that they do know. They go back to Galilee, to the sea. They're on a boat. They've got their nets, and they begin to fish. And they fish all night and don't catch anything. And then the next morning, Jesus, who's standing on the side of the shore, tells them to drop their nets on the other side. And when they do, the catch that they get is enormous. It almost sinks the boat. They're making their way into the shore, and they hear that voice again. And they recognize it. It's the voice of Jesus. And I wonder then if Nathanael remembered the promise that Jesus had made to him. You will see the heavens opened, and the angels of God will ascend and descend upon the Son of Man. Jesus had promised him, you are going to see some very unlikely and unbelievable things. And here it was. It had become real. Someone had come back from the dead. There was a resurrection. I wonder often if Nathanael remembered that misty morning when Jesus promised this to him. You will see some amazing things. I wonder. He finally did get to see them, but it took a lifetime. And so the question that Jesus has for us out of this book today, it's a good question for us to think about, to spend some time pondering over, maybe even wrestling with. And that is, why do you believe? Why do you believe? Think about that between now and the time when we're together next week. And again, I hope you have a great week.